We're teaching photography within the art department, and we're looking at it as one way of making art. That's why I got into it. I'm Walt Bistline. I am now an associate professor of art, teaching photography here at Earlham. I decided to try law school. I went to Boston University, did well, seemed to have the aptitude for it, and left there for a really good job with a big law firm on Wall Street in New York City. And then my wife and I decided to settle down, and we ended up, after looking at a lot of options, moving to Texas, and I practiced law in Texas for the next over 20 years. But ultimately, it wasn't what I wanted to do with my whole life. And sometimes people act as though that was some sort of noble decision on my part. I never thought of it that way. I just realized that I didn't want to, in my life someday, looking back and saying all I did was I was really good at drafting and negotiating contracts. And it wasn't until I was really in my early 40s. And at that time, I had just taken a new legal position in Houston. And Houston has a wonderful, vibrant art scene, particularly in photography. And I started meeting local photographers, learning what they were doing. I went on some photo workshops. I started entering a few local competitions. A local gallery included some of my work in their annual show. And then, to my astonishment, people started buying my photos. And so after a lot of thought and a lot of budgeting and a lot of support from my wife, I quit the law firm and went back to graduate school. Went to the University of Houston, which has a really fine photography graduate program, and was there for 3 years. When kind of out of the blue, I heard that there was an opening at this little college in Indiana that I'd never heard of. But my wife was from Ohio, and it sounded interesting, and they were looking for somebody to come in for 1 year to teach exclusively black and white darkroom photography, which has become kind of a rarity these days. Learning to use all the controls on a camera, learning to make your own photos will make you a better photographer traditionally or digitally, artistically or commercially. We are tied to the craft side of arts and crafts fairly strongly with things like ceramics, weaving, metalsmithing. And I think the traditional photography is a real bridge between sort of the old and the new.